So the first thing I had to do on Monday was my Spanish homework, which was to interview somebody about a historic event like 9/11 or the moon landing and ask who they were with, where they were, to practice different kinds of the past tense. So do you have a historic event?
When I met Yoko Ono.
No, like in like the whole world, not just like your life.
I said what I said.
The time you met. So his unforgettable event was the time he met Yoko Ono. Actually, it was twice, but we're just going to talk about the first time. So his dad pointed her out to Kevin, and Kevin just kind of went up to her and said, "Hi," and then just went back to his dad. When he saw her, she was looking at Fuji apples. She had a bodyguard that was super big, tall, and kind of husky looking. It happened when he was 8 years old in a Japanese supermarket while he was shopping for food with his dad. So obviously he told me the story in English, and then I went through and translated it into Spanish for my homework. I thought this was going to take a long time, but it actually ended up being like a half an hour, including all of my judgment on him picking this event for his most important in his life in all of history. So because I had a lot more time than I was planning on having, I was able to write out my Instagram caption that I wanted to post the next day tonight. I like to use these little graphics to highlight words that I think are really interesting that I'm studying, or those that I am having an especially hard time remembering. I find that by doing this, it's kind of another creative way to engage with the words and with the content, and I've been able to remember these words a lot easier after I put them on my Instagram like this. One of my current goals is to make a bigger effort to watch YouTube in Spanish. So right now I'm watching Beyond Words, and don't worry, I'll have all the resources that I mentioned in this video down in the description box below so you can find them there later. When I first started watching her videos, I remember reading the comments and people were like, "Oh my god, I can't believe you're XYZ years old." And I remember thinking, when did she say that? I absolutely did not pick up on that. And that's supposed to be like a really easy thing to pick up on, right? It's like a really simple sentence. So now it's been cool to watch my progression, that I'm watching her videos a lot more casually with a lot less effort. I don't know, do you guys have those vloggers that you kind of benchmark your progress against? Maybe it's just me. Let me know in the comments below if you do this too. I've been experimenting with different ways to integrate Spanish into my everyday life so I can learn without thinking too much about it. So twice a week I get the morning bulletin from El Times, which is the Spanish version of the New York Times. It's totally free, and the headline is super cute. It's like, "The New York Times with ennies and accents." I don't always read it in the morning, but today I did. I think this is a great resource for everyone, beginners, intermediates, advanced learners. When I was still a beginner, I would just kind of read it in bed and pick out the words that I knew and see if I could figure out what the headline said. And now I'm reading through it until I kind of feel like stopping. I also like it because it gives you US-centric news, but also news about Spanish-speaking countries. So you get the news that you would kind of usually ingest, and then ones that you might not see very often. So today I was really feeling it, which I think just really stems from the fact that I was able to understand all of it. There are some days where I can't understand anything at all, but other days where I just kind of am able to go through the whole thing and only pick out a few words that I don't know. So for me, this was a really easy swap to swap out my regular news in English for ones in Spanish. If reading the news isn't your thing, I think this can really easily be applied to other things, like, do you play video games for an hour and can you set that language into your target language? Do you watch sports and can you put that broadcast into another language? I think it's going to be really individual for each person, but I think there's really easy ways to swap out what you usually do in English for your target language. You just have to find it and experiment with what works for you. If you have been experimenting like this, definitely let me know what some of your swaps have been in the comments below. So I ended up having a little bit extra time, so I was able to bring it up on my email and then translate the words that I didn't know in SpanishDictionary.com. I think this content just kind of happened to be on the easier side, and so I only had a few words to translate. This is another reason why I think it's a great resource for everyone, is that sometimes it is really easy content and the beginners can feel super accomplished that they were able to read something in the New York Times. And for advanced learners, they're words you're not really going to see in any other context, so you can naturally expand your vocabulary. So then Tuesday night I had my Spanish lesson, and my teacher thought Kevin's story was just as ridiculous as I did. So after I read through my homework, we played a history game, so I got to practice different kinds of past tenses. So this is also when I learned that Christopher Columbus has a different name in Spanish. So I guessed that Cristobal Colon invented beer. Spanish, just always out here keeping me humble every day. So I just finished my conversational lesson for Spanish, and it was all about trips and viajes, and it's, I don't know, on one hand it's super sad because right, you can't go anywhere right now, but on the other hand it's super uplifting because you're like, oh, okay, I will be able to go and do these things eventually. And it's also, on the language side, a really good opportunity to use the subjunctive because it's a lot of I hope, I wish things were different, or, I hope in the future XYZ. And so there's a lot of opportunities to use both, present subjunctive and past, like if it were to be different or whatever. So it's kind of a bittersweet moment where you get to talk about really fun things that you won't be able to do right now, but I do get to practice a lot of the subjunctive. So that's where I'm at right now. But these lessons are so great now because it's still light outside, and so it still feels like I have so much more of my day left, and I'm like, oh my god, I've already done a whole hour of Spanish. Like, done, check, great. So I just get to kind of relax with, well, kind of the sunshine, but you know. So Thursday night, I am putting together a study with me, which if you haven't checked it out and you like study with me, so I'll link it up here. I do like to listen to the whole thing to kind of see what the user experience is on the other side and make sure that the audio levels are okay with like me introducing it in the beginning and going throughout, making sure the timer, you can hear it at the end, fun stuff like that. So it's not really editing or anything, and so it's kind of just like an hour. So while that is playing and I'm just making sure everything's okay, I'm going to be reading short stories in Spanish. So this is the intermediate book. I'm on story 2, chapter 1, and I do have the audiobook to go with it, but obviously since I'm checking for like audio levels and stuff, I'm not going to be doing that tonight. I'll save that for another time. Something that's been really fun is to put the book away, listen to the audiobook, and see if I can totally understand everything. And then if it kind of starts to get a little bit more difficult, I'll come back and read along while I'm listening to the audio. But tonight is just reading, and then I'll put up Reverso on the other screen and make sure I'm seeing the words in context and really, really go through it because I have, you know, an entire hour to go through this story. So let's do it. Apparently I was really feeling ill times this week, and so I was reading through it on my computer through my email and then looking things up on the other part of the screen in SpanishDictionary.com. It's really interesting that for me, this one was significantly harder, and so I feel like I'm always kind of kept on my toes with L times as well. And then Friday night, I watched an easy Spanish video on comparing different accents. It was really about how people felt moving to Germany, but it was 3 different people from Chile, from Peru, and from Spain, which was really cool to see how all of their accents were slightly different. It's really fun to be getting to the point where I can kind of identify different countries' accents, but I'm not quite there yet. Let me tell you, the Chilean accent is so pretty, it's so unique, but it is so hard for me to understand. It's one of the accents I would really like to understand, and I think the slang is really fun, but right now it is still very difficult for me to understand. I'll get there though. So I have not done vocab review on SpanishDictionary.com in a hot minute. I'm still a little undecided on the utility of flashcards, but I think Spanish dictionaries are actually really, really good because they have the picture, they have the sound, you have to write it out. And so I think you kind of get all of those different versions of a word and a concept. I usually only do them for like 20 minutes. I think anything more is just kind of like white noise. And I mean, I could do less, but I found that 20 minutes is kind of my sweet spot. So I'm gonna do 20 minutes of flashcard review on Spanish Dictionary. There are gonna be so many words that are ready for me because I haven't done this in a while. I used to do this like every single day for like 20 minutes. And I mean, it's gotten me to where I am now, more or less, with a lot of other resources, obviously. So another thing I realize I do is that I repeat what they say, which is kind of like shadowing, or it is shadowing, so that I kind of get a holistic picture of everything the word is trying to tell me. So I have the picture with the concept, I have a native speaker saying it back to me, I'm typing it out, and so I have that kind of kinetic memory, and then I'm saying it. So 1, I can stumble over new kind of word formations and letter formations. 2, to just practice my pronunciation. So those are kind of all of the things I do within this one tool for Spanish. And then you know me, I love my DW Documentals on the weekend. So this weekend I was watching a documentary on the Sami, which is an ethnic group of people in northern Sweden, Finland, Norway, that kind of area, and their rights in terms of owning reindeer up in that region. It was a good documentary, but it was definitely very gory. There was kind of a lot of butchering of reindeers and other animals, so if that's something that you're sensitive to, I don't think I would recommend this documentary particularly, but DW Documental has a documentary for everyone, let me tell you. And it's usually in really, really clear Spanish. I think they also have it in German and a few other languages, but I find it really, really approachable, and all of the topics are so interesting, so I highly recommend. So usually I don't do any studying for any language on Sunday because I take that time to sit down and reflect on how the week went and how everything felt. Like, was one day really, really overwhelming for me, but the other days were really, really chill, and maybe how to spread that out a little bit more. But Then I saw how much Babbel I had left to do, and I was like, maybe I need to start doing one of these a day. So I'm gonna do Babbel for Spanish today, which the lessons range anywhere from 5 minutes to 15 minutes, and you don't really know until you're like in it. That's okay. I'm like, it's 5 minutes, 15 minutes, it's fine. It's not that big of a deal. So I'm just gonna do one Babbel and see what it is. So I'm currently reading like 3 or 4 books in Spanish. I think part of it is because honestly, I am not a short story person, and all of the graded readers seem to be short stories, which I understand are really approachable and make it really easy to get from the start to the end of a story, but it's just so hard for me to get into short stories. So on Sunday night, I finished my book in English that I was reading, and I started reading I'm Not Your Perfect Mexican Daughter in Spanish. I know it's a little bit above my level, but I just could not do any more short stories, so I really wanted to get into a novel. So I am very, very, very slowly making my way through that one. But I am definitely surprised that this one is going a lot better than the last time I tried to read an actual novel in Spanish, which is really interesting because I think this book is actually aimed towards 7th and 8th graders, and the book I tried to read last time was for 3rd and 4th graders. But the last book was about ghosts and different concoctions and different potions, and so there were a lot of words that were not really everyday words. But this story has a lot more everyday words, and so it's a lot more approachable for me. So this is a quick breakdown of how long I spent doing each activity on Spanish this week. Definitely let me know if you already use some of these resources and any other resources that you have for anyone in the comment section below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Adiós y buena suerte con tu español.